All right, we're back in the kitchen again, and I know you can't wait. So, Sarika Sternhouse,
Yes,
how are
sir.
you? Glad to have you
Great.
back.
Thanks,
You're
Kelly.
doing great?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, we're going to be talking about soaking grains
Yes.
and some beans.
Yep.
And also sprouting some stuff.
Sprouting.
Okay.
Yep. That's the thing that comes after the soaking, if you choose to go there.
Well, this is true, but why?
Why would we do that? Well, you know, when we are getting into soaking grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, the reason we do that is because there are anti-nutrients that are inherent in any of these foods.
Anti-nutrients in these, such as...
Okay, so gluten is one that
Right,
a lot
that
of
would
people
be in the
have heard
grains
of.
is what I'm thinking
In
of.
the gluten-containing grains, that's
Okay.
right. Also tannins, phytic acid. These are all different components that are part of these foods that actually make these foods not as bioavailable to us.
Okay.
Say, for instance, the phytic acid. If we don't get that out of the picture by pre-soaking and then, you know, maybe even moving into doing some sprouting as we're going to do today, then what that can do is that can leach minerals from our body, because those minerals are bound to the bran of whatever that food is. And it's through this pre-digestion of soaking in a warm water medium that is broken through, because we don't have inherently within us the enzymes that break that down. So we need to pre-digest.
And we're mostly talking about, of course, organic beans and grains
yeah.
and stuff like that, non-GMO,
That's right.
because the GMOs and other stuff that's out there, you don't have as much nutrient anyway.
No.
So without soaking it, you're saying we're not getting as much of the nutrients that our body can get.
That's right.
Because we're not preparing them right.
That's right. You know, this is a traditional food preparation technique that we're
Doing it
talking
for a
about
long
here.
time.
Doing it for a long time, and it's what our bodies are accustomed to. If we're going to eat these foods, this is how we're designed to handle them.
Great.
And it hasn't been but for about the last 100 years or so with the commercial processing that we've done.
Expediency,
Yes.
you know, people want to get things done, give it to me
Yesterday.
and cook it done.
That's right,
So,
that's right. And so we've gotten away from this, and in turn, in the last 100 years, it's amazing the different types of degenerative processes that have happened in people's health. And so the reason that I like to do this is a way of bringing back some nutrition into the diet. And it's actually a very simple thing. It's not that it takes so much work on behalf of the person doing it. It just requires a little bit of extra time.
But not a lot, but most of the time for this to do what it needs to do. Because
That's
once
right.
you prep it with the water the way you need to, then it's going to do its own.
That's right.
Okay.
It does its own. Just needs the time and the proper conditions.
So what would I be doing with, this is spelt, right?
Yep, and
Okay.
that's an ancient relative to wheat. And so this is actually a gluten-containing grain. This
Okay.
is right here.
So in soaking it and sprouting it slightly is going to get rid of the gluten.
I wish I could say that were true. There are actually some research.
good I asked that
It is
question.
good that you asked that, because researchers in Italy have actually, they have shown that with wheat that they have soaked under the right conditions, they have taken out the gluten. But for most of what most people are going to be doing in their kitchen, it's not going to be enough.
Okay.
And so that gluten will still be there. For a person who has gluten sensitivity, that might not be too big of a deal.
Right.
But for a person who is truly celiac disease, that is not good. They want to just stay away from the gluten-containing grains.
And so what I would do with this is what?
Yes.
I would be
Okay.
grinding it.
Well,
I mean,
now
I don't
see-
want to spend money on a big grinder because I don't do a lot
Right.
of baking. So
That's right. This is interesting. This is interesting what I've done here. This looks a little bit like regular hard spelt berries, but actually what this is spelt berries that I have soaked, that I then allowed to sprout. And then because I wanted to use them in a flour, then I dehydrated them at 105 degrees in my dehydrator.
Okay.
And let them get hard again, and then I just store them in my refrigerator till I'm ready to use them. And what that looks like is I grab my coffee grinder and I just pour some of this in there.
that's a great idea.
And I just
That
make
is.
a fresh flour
I never
that
thought
way.
of that.
Yep, it's easy.
Well, how long would that last in the refrigerator though?
You know, I would say rather indefinitely. You know,
Unless you lose power, so you know.
yeah, exactly. You do want to keep it in the refrigerator. In an opaque container would be best, so you don't have the oxidation. Yeah, no. But what I would probably use that within 6 months time
Well,
or
that's
so.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then now we have quinoa.
Yes.
And now you've sprouted this quinoa.
I did. Can you
Now-
see those little tails on there?
Well, oh, they're so cute, but no, they're very tiny.
They are tiny.
Now, we've cooked quinoa on here before with one of our chefs, Chef Lou Schwartz, and very good. So that's what I do with this.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You would prepare it the same way, only this is pre-prepared.
Okay.
And the way I've done this is I've taken the raw quinoa, I've rinsed it just as you would with your regular preparation, and then I added water that's about 110 degrees or so, a little bit warmer than body temperature, and then I let that soak at room temperature for about 15 to 24 hours.
Okay.
And in that period of time, then you've started this pre-germination process, this soaking. You've
Room
got
temperature.
Room temperature.
Okay.
Yep, because otherwise things are not, it's like anything, that retards any processes. That's why we use refrigeration. But when we want to actually have some natural processes happening, we want things to be at ambient temperature of the room.
Well, can I dry this out also, like we did this?
You
and-
can, I've done that. And
Okay.
I do. Then I put it back into the dehydrator, and then I can use this to, as a base for making flours like a quinoa bread.
Because my understanding is, we're talking with our Chef Lou, who's saying how high nutritional value this is.
It's incredible.
Right.
This is actually
superfood.
not a grain. It's an Incan, a
Remember.
Mayan. I'm sorry, a Mayan superfood,
Right.
and it's actually very high in protein. It's a seed. It's not a true grain. It's a seed it's a grain-like seed is what it is.
It's a grain, but a seed, but a grain, seed grain.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we'll get there one way or the other.
It's
So.
good for you.
Okay, now we're talking about the beans, and I know I've done this for years. We've always gotten dried beans, and
Yeah.
we soak them overnight, and then
Yeah.
we'll cook them. So,
Yeah.
but you're talking about sprouting them,
Yes.
and again, the benefits of sprouting from that.
Right. Well, the thing is when you actually allow something to go beyond just the soaking process, but then remove it from the water, rinse it off, hold it in a colander. I like to keep things in a colander so that I can then take them back to the sink and rinse off any dust
Oh, I like
or
that.
any mold or anything. So it's a simple way to do
Very
it.
good.
You take it back and you keep, again, everything at room temperature. And what happens in that instance is that the actual germination really gets underway, and the carbohydrates that are in this plant,
Right.
they become the start of a new food. And so the carbohydrates that are in here are actually being consumed by the generation of this new sprout right here.
So this is the same bean that these little dried
Yes.
ones are? Well, let's show what they look like. Look at the difference from when they were dry. Oh, it slid down. Let's put it back.
There's quite a marked difference between the two.
Yes,
I mean,
there
when
is.
you soak that up, it's amazing. And that was just a
See
24-hour
this one?
period.
Look at the difference in the size. The one that sprouted, and then when it was dry.
And then
That's a big
you'll-
difference.
Yep, and you see also the little white tail.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for when you're
So
sprouting.
what will we do? How do we do this?
Well, this is a really wonderful way, especially for people who are vegetarians, to make sure that their beans stay a vegetarian protein. Most people, when they consume beans, they cook the heck out of them.
Yep,
And
we do.
We do. And what happens when you
Make
do
sure they're done.
That's right. And when you do that, you've denatured all the proteins that are in here. It makes it a carbohydrate-rich food.
Okay.
And so when you prepare beans in a way that keeps them a vegetable, vegetarian protein source, then that's a terrific nutrition for someone to be
Yeah,
consuming.
we talk about that a lot, not overcooking things. And
That's
of course,
right.
we do vegan as well.
Yeah.
I've talked about that here too, but not cooking quite as much.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. And so what you do with this technique is you would pre-prepare your broth here. And so, it could be some kind of a stock that you've been using that maybe has some vegetables and herbs and whatnot. And you
Yummy.
brought it to, very yummy, and you brought it to the flavor and texture that you like it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take these beans that have been sprouted and you're going to dump them in. And then what you want to do is stir them in there, and then you're going.
It's intuitive.
It is intuitive. It makes you want to pick up a spoon
That's
and
right.
do it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to reduce the heat so that the temperature is just below the simmer. So really what you're kind of doing is more steaming these
Almost
beans.
turn this thing off then.
Yeah, you want to pretty much get it close to off.
Okay,
And
well, that's as far as I can
don't
do.
cover it with a lid because that's going to generate more heat in there. And you
And
also
just let
want
it
to
sit
keep
there.
an eye. And just let it sit there for about 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
I know, it takes like I say, this all takes a little bit of time, but it's doing its own thing. You just can, check on it periodically.
So you came here again, and I don't get to taste anything.
I'm sorry, Kelly. I know, but I promise you, once these are done, they're going to be terrific.
All right, well, we'll
Put them
wait.
on a salad.
We'll wait. I got my spoon. We'll wait. Thank you again.
You're welcome,
Wonderful.
Kelly.
Thank
Take
you very
care.
much. I want to learn to do all this stuff. This is good stuff.
That's good.